everyone. Welcome back to Iron Bay Research. This is episode 13. And last time we talked about me getting out of the military, starting our life, or I guess restarting a life back in Virginia.
Optics of disability.
Yeah, talking about disability, and then us like getting jobs. And so we want to talk about a fun one, which is the discussion, the decision to let's start looking at buying a house. So at this point in time, we were making decent money. We were making like 18, 19 a month. So 1,800, 1,900 a month from disability. I was getting like mid 2000s.
I would say 2,500.
Yeah, 2,500 from the GI Bill.
So what's that? That's 35, 43.
43. Probably about another $1,000 a month from me working contracting gigs.
Yeah.
And then what were you making a month?
I can't remember.
It was $20 an hour, so.
It was either 32 or 4. I think it was like 3,200.
Let's call it 32, yeah.
Yeah.
So we were making about $8,500 a month, and we didn't have any debt.
No.
So this was all going into our pocket, and so we were like, hell yeah, let's go.
So this goes back to, my parents paying off my college, how that works.
Yeah, definitely helps.
That really helps us because that would have only been like $7,000 if we were still paying rent.
Yeah, that would have been,
We're not paying rent, so again, my parents.
We were doing like what, $200 a month, like very minimal.
We talked about that. We were paying my parents like $250 a month.
Yeah, we were renting a room in the basement,
and they did that as a favor to us.
Yeah,
because they knew our goal was to buy a home, so they were like, save up your cash.
Yeah.
And whenever you're ready. And
but we were out the door pretty quick.
Like 6 months.
Yeah.
Total, we were with my parents.
Because I think we had the decision, within 3 or 4 months.
I had to show like a month of me. No, we submitted for our pre-approval. You're right. When I got my job offer, not even after I started. Yeah. So we submitted for pre-approval just with my job offer, and then at the end of us closing, when we did finally find a house, I submitted as many pay stubs as I could.
And it was with the disability too, because I came in January, because I was able to turn that in.
Yeah, exactly. So we got pre-approved to buy a house up to, I think it was $400,000 was our pre-approval.
Yeah, and we called Veterans United. There wasn't a reason we had to use them. I was like, oh, I'm a veteran. Let me give them a call.
Yeah. Veterans United is a mortgager.
Yeah, they're a mortgage lender, and they put us in touch with an agent called Gary Fleming, who actually ended up becoming a big part of our life in some other ways.
And a good friend, yeah.
Yeah, I still know him pretty well today. But yeah, so we got the pre-approval. We knew we wanted to move back into the same neighborhood that we previously lived in, called Montclair, Virginia. Yeah. But we were open to looking at surrounding areas too for 10 minutes.
I think it was because we knew with our pre-approval budget in the DC area and in the neighborhood that we grew up in was a very desirable neighborhood. So we knew that
schools,
we might not be... No, I'm getting at, we knew we might not be able to find something at our budget in that neighborhood. Yeah. So that's why we were like, let's just look also open to the greater area because it's possible it might be slim pickings because the houses were a little bit more expensive.
I think I was surprised though, because I remember growing up, my house was like my parents' was like a 5-bedroom, 3-bath, and then your parents' house was similar. Yeah. And so I think I was surprised that there were a lot of townhome options, a lot of 3-bedroom, 2-bath options. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so, we looked in. I guess from a realtor's point of view, we were good clients. We were like, hey, 400, we know exactly what neighborhood we want.
Easy.
And I think in total we saw 10 houses maybe?
Yeah, not a lot. Yeah. I think we just
and we knew the areas very well. Every neighbor we went to, we knew. Because we lived there, a lot of our lives. We're like, okay, I know this neighborhood, so. And
it's funny because all of the houses, we were just like, nah, not interested. We instantly knew. It was
very
weird.
Quick. I think we narrowed it down. We thought long and hard about I remember there was a townhome we liked in South Lake.
In South Lake, yeah.
There was a townhome we liked, but we just didn't want to share walls because we wanted some privacy.
And also, the kitchen area and everything was up 2 flights of stairs, and it was a very steep, slender townhome.
Yeah.
And I think it was a priority for us our grandparents would visit often, and we didn't want our grandparents to have to walk up these really steep set of stairs, and that was just off-putting for us. And also, we didn't want to.
Yeah, like for me, like if I'm parking my car, I need to be in the kitchen or like in the doorway from like 10 steps.
And I mean,
like no stairs, nothing.
Yeah, and to be fair,
that's reasonable.
3 years in college, I was carrying groceries up 3 flights of stairs, and I was over that.
Yeah, so we wanted it quick and easy.
We wanted to walk into our kitchen with our groceries.
Yeah, so
So I think maybe do you want to go into that, like with home buying, creating a priority list, because that helps a lot.
Yeah.
Because it helps narrow down your search.
And I'm also a real estate agent now.
Yes. So Bryce is very familiar.
Yeah, I've been doing this in Tampa for about 5 years now. But
so this will be interesting. We haven't looked back on this from our perspective now as very experienced home buying
we were
home buyers, but back then it's just funny, we had such a simplistic view. That was our first
we thought it was tough from his point of view. It was like we had no debt, we were married, we have good income,
we had $40,000 in the bank, but we didn't even need a down
using
payment.
A VA loan. We knew the exact area we wanted, and we're like, we're ready to buy now.
And those were the benefits of the VA loan that you get as a veteran. Is they allow a lot of home lenders require you to put what's the percentage now?
So there are a lot of loan products out there, and the smallest down payment. So there is a USDA loan, which is for like rural country areas for 0%. But the next thing up is a FHA loan, which is for first time home buyers. Which is 3.5%. But in the veterans loan, we're able to get it's a pretty good rate, and it's 0% down.
Yeah, but people aren't as good as percentages as you. So could you give an example? What is 3.5% out of $400,000?
Yeah, so for $400,000, that would be $14,000.
Yeah, so to
put down,
if
plus
we
your
were
closing
working
costs.
with a regular home buyer without the VA loan, we would have had to bring $14,000 to the table.
Yeah.
We had that money, but for those that might not, it's the VA loan is a great benefit as a veteran to be able to buy a house with zero money.
Yeah, saving up for the down payment is definitely a barrier to buying a home.
Yeah, for sure, because people don't realize that's what costs money. It's very attainable. I think if people actually looked into it, they would find that it's very attainable. But
it's
you do need some cash on hand.
Yeah, it's just anything. The more money, the more options you have.
Yeah.
But we did the pre-approval. We looked at houses. I think it was like a month or two looking, and I remember we narrowed it down to like 3 houses. It was a townhome, and we liked that one because. So of everything else, the townhomes had the most like open living room space, but then like the shared walls, the small backyard, everything upstairs we didn't really like.
I also took into consideration with that one, it was right behind the high school where we went to high school, and we didn't want the noise of the drums and the
I kind of wanted some distance away from that.
Yeah.
There was that house that had the second master bedroom or the second primary bedroom downstairs. Remember they had like updated it.
Oh yeah, that was a townhome.
Yeah, there was another townhome.
That was cool. Yeah, because they had decked out. The whole house was just standard, but they decked out the basement to make it a master suite.
Yeah.
And it was gorgeous, and for us we were like, whoa, that's super cool. It's funny that spoke to us.
It was like
because it wasn't
we wouldn't have needed
the nicest little nook of townhomes. It was just kind of
we were easy to please.
We were we saw a bougie bedroom with cool bathroom, even though the kitchen was shit. We were like, this is awesome.
It's like I think we could finally shop for options now. And that was like really exciting.
That was cool.
And then there was that house across Edge Hill that we liked, but we remember it was near the road, and the road we could hear the road noise.
We could hear the road noise. We didn't like that.
It had a lot of doors.
Yeah, there was
upstairs. The landing had.
It had 3 bedrooms, and all of the bedrooms shared the master's bathroom.
Yeah.
So there were 3 doors coming into the master, and you couldn't open all of them at the same time.
It was very weird.
It was like Tetris of doors, and we were like, "What? We don't like this."
It flowed weird, yeah. And then one house we saw was the one that we ended up buying. Just little cute, had gable roofings. It was gray shingles and like red brick.
I'll post.
Yeah, it was that'd be good. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Yeah. But it was cute. Yeah, we scheduled the showing. the homeowners, they had turned on some music. I always laugh when I tell the story because we were looking around and then I asked Gary. No, I sat down and you told me
couch.
You told me don't do that. That's
I
weird.
was like, ew, don't sit on their couch.
And then we look over and our agent was sitting on the couch. We're like, oh, I guess we could. He's like, oh, whoops. Like,
yeah, I was like, I just thought it was rude of us. Like, I was like, that's someone else's couch. They don't want us sitting on their couch.
You got to try it out.
But then Gary, our agent, was like, oh no, we got to test out the room.
Yeah.
So he sat on the couch too, and I was just like eye rolling at you guys. But,
it was great though. Yeah, had no rear view neighbors, a fenced-in yard.
We backed up to the woods, which was really nice. So it's funny because this house had the worst finishes. It was very outdated, like 80s.
But we felt confident we could we'll
but
update it on our own.
But we just loved the vibe of it. It just felt like us.
Had a good aura.
It was weird. Yeah, it's funny. Like we chose that over all these really updated, nice houses.
It just spoke to us.
In the same price range.
And
so
funny enough,
we loved the street.
Yeah, one of my best friends. He was born. He was born in the house?
Yeah, he was born in the house.
He wasn't born in it, but his mom was pregnant and gave birth to him in the house right next to us. And he was like, oh, I know this house. And it was like really funny.
So that would kind of made it even more nostalgic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, that was a really good process. I remember we submitted an offer. We wanted like $20,000 off. They came back at 10.
We said no.
Yeah, we were like, no. In hindsight, that was kind of dumb of us.
And then we were like, what have we done? And a day later, we called our agent back. We were like, tell them we still want it, please. We'll take their counter. Yeah. And luckily, they were like, yeah.
It was like their house had been on for 15 days. And I think...
No, it was on for a long...
No, it was...
I think it was...
It was ever 2 weeks or 2 months.
It was 2 months.
Yeah.
It was on way longer than that. That's why Gary was like, we have time.
Which isn't long. But I remember a lot of the houses we were seeing were going pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And so we were like, oh, shit. So, yeah, we put in the offer... and then did the inspection, did the appraisal. It was a pretty seamless process until closing. Remember, we had this. It was like a 5-hour delay at signing.
Oh yeah, that was a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
But do you want to just give people a quick what's involved in before closing? So they accept your offer. You are en route to buy a house. Then what?
Okay, yeah. So I'll just pull from there. So we submit an offer. It's official paperwork. This is what we want to buy for this price, these terms, close on this day, etc. Mm-hmm. When both parties sign and agree, that's when you have an executed contract. That's when usually takes about 30 to 45 days from that point to like, hey, here are the keys, you're the new homeowner.
Right.
First thing that happens is we as the buyers, you pony up something called your earnest money, which is usually about 1%. So we'll say $3,000, $4,000. You give that money to the title company who is handling the transaction, and that's acted as like collateral to keep you in the deal. Next thing up is
and that earnest money will go towards your closing costs. You don't lose that.
Correct. Yeah,
it's just a deposit
to show you're serious.
Kind of like a renter would submit a
security deposit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep. And then you have your inspection period, which is where you get an inspector. You get to make sure all the lights work, all the faucets work, and during that time, it's always a little bit of renegotiating. I can't remember if we found anything serious. It might have been just like, hey, there were some dings here that we want money back or whatever.
I don't think we did. I think we were pretty easy on the inspection. Yeah. I don't think there was anything. I think we negotiated for them to make a couple fixes for us.
Yeah, it wasn't anything. It was just normal.
But we didn't ask for any money.
Yeah. And inspection.
But you can during the
inspection. Yeah, it's really up to you. But it's very common to find something. Like usually it'll be like, hey, there's $500 of little fixes here. Can you give us that?
But a safety inspection is a contingency where if you do see something you don't like, you can pull out of the deal and get your earnest money deposit back.
Correct. And that specifically it changes deal by deal, but it is common that you have this contingency. So we have that. At the same time, you're working with your lender to get all your paperwork ready for your loan,
so that they can give you the money to buy the house.
That's submitting your pay stubs, your tax returns, everything, and it's very intense. For anyone that hasn't bought a home, it is very frustrating, and the lender, there is so much checks and balances to prevent any sort of fraud whatsoever. if you your top 5 times of frustration, I bet you in your life will be working with a lender to buy a home. Guarantee it. It's a nightmare, but unfortunately, if you're borrowing money,
about like 10 to 15 homes that are our own personal properties.
Yeah.
With rentals and stuff.
Always
and
stressful.
We've never had a smooth one.
Yeah, a smooth one will be you only have a couple issues.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
yeah, they're just stressful. But yeah, we did that, and then the home gets appraised. That's when someone goes out there to like a third party from the bank to verify that the home is worth what you're buying it for, and that takes about 30 to 45 days.
And
the whole process.
Who does the appraisal protect? Both parties.
The appraiser protects the bank to make sure that you aren't overpaying for something, but it also helps you too. Like so, I can't remember. We bought it for like $315 or $2.
We ended up buying it for $325.
Yeah, $325. So the appraiser would get out there and just verify, hey, this house is worth $325.
Yeah. Oh no, it was $315 because we put $25 down and our loan was $290.
Yeah, that's right. I don't. $290 was mad for some reason.
Yeah, you're right.
But we did a good job. It's usually when people have a budget or something, they go all the way up to the budget.
Yeah, but it's just funny. One of the and we could have with those updated houses. We just didn't like the feel of them. Yeah. We wanted the grungy house that just had a nice homey feel.
I think the yard spoke to us.
It did.
It was like that,
and it was just quiet. And the street was so pretty. There were all the cherry blossoms with the pink.
It was a 5-minute drive from both our parents.
Yeah. Right across the street from my elementary school.
Yeah.
It was just, we loved it.
Yeah.
It was just cool.
Good vibe.
Oh my gosh, we just can't stop talking about how much we loved that
What's exciting?
It was just like.
Well, I mean, anyone that watched the previous episode of the house flooding.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like.
For us, this was like,
Yeah, it's like, this is my house now.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so the appraiser
the appraiser came back. Appraiser protects the bank and the buyer to make sure it's worth it. It's just a third party opinion.
Yeah.
And then all of that, and then the title company is, checking the title work to make sure that no one has a claim on the home, making sure that who's selling it is able to sell it.
And important to note that same as the safety inspection contingency, the appraisal can also be a contingency in your contract where if that doesn't come out as planned and parties can't come to an agreement, you can also pull out no strings attached and get your earnest money deposit back.
Deal dependent. So there's a lot of contingencies there, and we felt good, and Gary, the agent, did a really good job of explaining
for
it to
anyone
us.
Nervous to go into an agreement or contract to buy a first home, as long as you have your contingencies in place and you have a really good realtor who knows what they're doing, that's important. You're safe and don't feel like someone's going to force you to buy this house just because you signed a contract to possibly buy the house. I think that's where people get scared maybe.
Yeah. It's just, there are a lot of steps. It's not like you're buying, even a car seems like a very almost instant process compared to buying a house.
Yeah.
You're in and out of a dealership in 3-4 hours. But with this, it's a 30-day process, and the whole way through it's check.
Yeah, and you're protected. So.
But you still have to buy with common sense. I always say something too. Just because the bank pre-approves you, you still have to pre-approve yourself.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, the bank could have said we're good for payment up to this amount, but we had to verify, can we handle that?
Yeah.
And I think that's important because, just because someone's offering you money doesn't mean you should take it.
Yeah, especially look at your current expenses and what lifestyle you like to sustain. For Bryce and I, we don't vacation a lot, but we knew that we really like to eat. We love food.
Yeah.
And we love to go out to eat whenever we want. We didn't want to have to not go out to eat to afford our mortgage. So for us, that was a massive play as well.
Yeah, because a bank will only, the way it's called your DTI, your debt to income. What they'll do, and this is just in a nutshell, is they'll look at your income. We said that $8,400 a month, whatever, and some change. Mm-hmm. And they'll only account some of that. In our example, they wouldn't account the GI Bill, and they wouldn't account my contracting work because those were kind of variable. Mm-hmm. But again, that goes back into you have to pre-approve yourself because you kind of understand the better picture. So the way they would look, they probably would have only assumed $6,000 or so of our income.
What we're actually making.
So they'll have your income, and they'll look at your debt. And the debt, they'll consider anything that has a loan on it, like a student loan, a car loan, credit card payments. and they'll say, hey, here's your income. We'll call it $6,000, and if you have an existing debt of $1,000, they'll take your income of $6,000, and they'll look at about half of that. So call that $3,000. So now you have $3,000 of available income. They'll add in your current debt. In this example, that's $1,000. So in this equation, they would say, okay, you have $2,000 left of available income to offset. So they'll say, hey, your maximum mortgage amount right now is $2,000, and then from there they'll figure out if your payments are $2,000, you can be approved for this amount of a home.
Sure.
That's in a nutshell. Obviously the ratios are off, but that's your DTI, your debt to income ratio.
And for anyone that wants to figure out what a payment would be on a certain priced home, you can just Google a mortgage calculator.
Yeah, like I've got one on my phone. It's super helpful. Like you
Yeah.
can say, okay, if you want to keep your payments at $3,000 a month, you can figure out, well, if your interest rate's this and your down payment's this, you can buy a house for whatever, $400,000.
Right.
But that's how they do it. They also consider obviously your credit score and then your down payment, all that stuff
your
too.
credit score, yeah, for sure.
And everyone says they're all equal importance. I think the most important thing is the DTI, because your down payment that can fluctuate with the type of loan, and a credit score can fluctuate in situations. You might get a higher rate, or if you can get someone to co-sign, whatever. But the DTI is the one thing that like you have to hit that number. It's not.
Right.
It's not really fungible.
Sure.
But yeah, so we went to closing. There was a paperwork delay, very frustrating. We ended up being there for like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
But we signed, got the house, got the keys, moved out of the parents' basement.
Yep. Not yet. We renovated this house.
That's right.
Yeah, so we actually, after we bought this house, we wanted to do a little bit of work ourselves before we moved in. Not extensive.
Which, looking back, it actually was a lot.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
First of all, we painted the whole house. We had it recarpeted, all upstairs recarpeted.
Yes.
Because the carpet was original to the house, like from the 80s.
We redid the tile flooring.
We redid the tile in the foyer and the kitchen.
Which is about half.
Yeah, and we kept the wood in. It had really cool cherry wood floors.
Yeah, the Brazilian
in the living
cherry
room
wood,
and the dining room, and then we did the countertop and got all new appliances. We redid the bathroom.
Yeah.
New toilet and everything. The half bath. We didn't redo. Oh, and then we moved in before. Oh no, we did redo the.
We moved in and I tried to redo the upstairs bathroom.
Oh yeah, and then we just paid someone.
But I think overall, how much did we spend on the...
I think we spent only like $15,000 on the renovation because we did a lot of it ourselves.
Yeah, we had a lot of help too.
We had a lot of help. Like my uncle, my aunt and uncle.
Yeah, your parents. I had some
my
friends
parents,
come over.
we had friends that did this for us. So our community really helped us do this in like a month.
Yeah.
So
Shayla and Trav came down too.
Yep, Shayla and Trav came down and helped us. Yeah, because my sister's husband is really handy, and after my uncle came down to help us do the backer board of the tile, which is the cement piece that goes under tile. My uncle
Trav
Nicky,
helped us tile.
My brother-in-law then helped us just set the first line of tile. He showed us how to do the putty on the back.
What's that called?
I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. It's obvious.
Not spackling.
No.
You just put like the adhesive on the back of the towel.
Yeah. He showed us how to do that and how to set the tile to pull away so that it pulls in.
Mastic. That's what it's called.
Mastic? No, that's not what I'm thinking of. There's a different term.
I swear it's called mastic.
Anyways, he helped us set our first line so it'll dry so that way our tile was centered in the room. Because we had no idea how to figure that. So he helped us set the line to work off of. So that was super helpful.
Yeah, it's called mastic.
But is there another term for it that's used?
No, mastic is the material it's called. But I don't know what. Like,
no,
the
like
thing.
the putty I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's the adhesive that's.
I know, but that's not like the common term used. I thought it's called something else.
Flex glue. Anyways, but yeah, so...
so we had a lot of friends and family help us do that, which was awesome. But anyways, so after we bought our house, we were we had the luxury of still being able to live with my parents and take our time on that, so we weren't living in construction or anything.
But I think we banged it out
in like a month, yeah.
Yeah,
it was quick.
Very quick. No,
we did it like
it was faster than
every
that.
day/weekend.
Yeah, it was a lot faster than that.
So that was cool.
Yeah. And now we have home.
Yeah, and then we had our
fun.
first home
And
that
then the payments started coming in like a month after we closed, and I think that was the first time. Okay, like now we have payments coming in, and I think, what were the payments, like $1,800, $1,700?
Yeah. So something we didn't talk about was interest rates. So something that gets locked in during the loan process is you get approved for a certain interest rate.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so like what's common in for the U.S. market is a 30-year loan. So you when you apply for the loan, this interest rate is fixed for 30 years, and so the rate you get, the payments are included of four things: your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. The principal and interest over 30 years do not change. What does change is the taxes and insurance. And those fluctuate usually upward because as your home gets more valuable, the taxes go up, and so does the insurance because the replacement value goes up.
Okay.
But overall, like your payments will stay about the same. And then there was a small HOA payment too.
Yeah, we had a small HOA
But
payment,
I think the payment was like what, $1,700 a month? I can't remember.
Yeah, so I know exactly what it was.
Okay.
I was just asking you to talk about interest rates.
Yeah.
So our interest rate that we locked in and got approved for, which is actually we got this one for cheaper when we came down. I forgot.
Yeah.
But that one I think was 3.25.
That's what I want to say.
Yeah, it was 3.25, and our payments were $1,800.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not bad. I mean, that was, a quarter of what we were pulling in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it
not
was
bad at all. And honestly, it was cheaper than the going rent in the area, which was great.
Yeah, I think if we were to rent that house, it would have been
probably like $2,500, I would think,
probably
at
like
least.
$2,000.
Yeah.
I think,
But yeah, so that we made out, and I think
Yeah.
that looking back now, we can give ourselves a little bit more credit that we put ourselves in that really good situation.
Yeah, because we didn't just decide, oh, we want to buy it. It was something that we saved up for it. We did the work.
Calculated.
Yeah, I mean, like it is worth to call the lender and to do this. Like it's weeks and weeks of work.
Yeah,
like,
it's a pain in the butt.
I do this now, and people think it's just like an overnight thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're lucky you bought. Like, you gotta put effort into it.
No, you do for sure.
And yes, like there are times that are better to buy, are times better to sell.
Yeah.
But that being said, when the time is to buy, you have to jump on it.
Yeah.
Like that time, we looked at it like, oh, the mortgage payment is cheaper. We need to do this. And
yeah, for sure.
And it's not. And it can be scary. The one example I like to say is, when COVID hit. I think everyone right now buying it's tough, and everyone always talks about like, oh, I wish I bought back then. I wish I bought when payments were low. When COVID hit, interest rates went down to 0. And so that meant like your actual mortgage payment loan was at like 2 or 3%.
Really? I didn't realize it was that low.
So the Fed rate was 0, but mortgage rates were like 2 or 3.
Yeah, because we got this for 2.2.
It was dirt
I remember
low.
It was insane.
And housing, like all the buyers left.
Yeah.
The housing market was slow as shit. You could get a really good deal, and fucking a lot of my clients, I'd say 90% of them said, "Oh, I don't want to buy right now. I'm too nervous."
Yeah.
So it's
but give an example of who did buy and now has like so much equity in their home. My parents.
Well, we did.
Well, we did. Yeah. But my parents.
Yeah, and of my
they're
clients,
I think a really good example.
There are a lot of people that did buy, and it was scary.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh shit,
because you don't know what's gonna happen.
It could go down more, but I know right now it's a good deal. Your parents bought, we bought, and then now it's like you had the reward of it. But the point is, it's just.
Yeah.
I think people look back and they could say like, "Oh, you're lucky you bought." No, luck has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
We jumped in when everyone else was going the other way.
Yeah, sure.
And I was like, "Oh, you got our nuts to buy right now." Could go. I mean, I remember I had one guy. He was like a banker type, and he was like, "Oh, they're scrambling. Housing prices are gonna cut in half," and he didn't buy. And the time he walked away was the bottom of the market. And if he had bought,
this was a client of yours.
Yeah, I remember it because he was one that walked away, and if he had bought. He would have. I remember the house that we were looking at too. He would have made probably about $200,000, $300,000 in equity.
Wow, yeah.
And that decision would have changed his life forever.
Yeah.
Like that's not an exaggeration because then he could sell the house and put a fat down payment.
So it's not only your decisions; it's the timing of your decisions.
It's the timing. Yeah. It's preparing. I mean, what's that called? That luck is. What's the definition of luck? It's something stupid. It's like. preparation and something happening
at the same time.
Yeah, but it's like preparing to buy and then also taking the action to do something.
Yeah.
So is it lucky that we bought then? Sure, but then guess what? When the opportunity to buy again happened, we also did it again.
Yeah.
So were we lucky twice? I don't know.
Yeah.
And also too, I mean, we were both working. Anyone else in here could have bought.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing special.
And I think it's helpful to know that once you do buy your first house, you get a lot more comfortable with the process and the stigma of being a homeowner. Because I think a lot of people might not do it, not only because it's a pain in the butt. I mean, laziness is a real thing. Like, it's a freaking process.
Oh, it is a pain in the ass.
Yeah. So it's an inconvenience to your life for sure if you're comfortable in your rental situation.
Yeah.
But to buy, though, also, I think it's once you do it and you are a homeowner, it becomes less scary and you're like, oh, that was it. Now I know what to expect.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people will look at home buying versus renting and they'll compare it in the now and they'll be like, oh, well, right now, if I need something fixed, I'll call my property manager or the landlord or whatever.
Yeah.
Or I can get up and move and leave this place if I want to
travel. Which is convenient.
Which is true, and I'll say yes. Whenever you compare buying versus renting, in the near future, renting always looks better. Usually your payments are better.
Sure.
You're not beholden to anything. It's not scary.
Non-committal.
Not committed, and it's less work. I mean, to get a loan application, hey,
2 weeks you're in.
Yeah. 3 times the amount of rent, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
And you're not in the hook for 30 years.
So that is beneficial depending on your situation, absolutely.
But where the benefit of home ownership comes into play is for those people that can look out into the future 10, 20 years, is that, at this time you now have a massive amount of equity in your home, and in another 10, 20 years your payments go away. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard to think that far into the future.
Sure.
And I think a lot of people write it off and say it's better to rent now. Well, no shit.
Yeah.
It is always going to be better to rent now.
Yeah.
And I give it to you. But it's not that. It's about prepping, hey, is the situation better for you
making
in 20,
an
30
investment,
years?
Yeah. And I think that was our first taste of long-term thinking investment-wise.
Oh, yeah. I would say for sure that was the first time we were let's start laying the foundation to have a solid future.
Yeah, sure.
I think that's
and we just felt like home buying... We didn't home buy because it was this is what people do. Successful people home buy. I feel like our view on it, which that's not a bad view, that may be true, but we just felt like home buying was the next step to the lifestyle that we wanted.
Yeah, because I think we did a lot of traveling for work wise. Now we were ready to kind of settle down and kind of build roots.
Yeah.
So that was really important, but it's just thinking about in 30 years we'll own this, and that's very far.
Yeah.
I mean, most people don't think that far.
So we bought that house. That was spring of 2017.
Yeah, correct.
So we lived in it. We'll talk about the rest of our history. Yeah, 2.5 years.
Yeah. And I think at that point we were really shaking and baking, right? We were.
Yeah.
You were killing it at work. School was going well for me. I was doing when did I start working? Because then I started working too, I think.
What were you doing again? What was the first job before that Amazon thing?
Security.
No, before the security thing. Was that the first thing? That was the first thing.
Yeah. So I think it was.
And you got paid to train, right?
Yeah. So there was a time. Yeah, we can talk about that. And so
I think we should stop this. Well, this episode's just about the home buying.
Okay.
So we'll go into our life next episode about pulling in money and what we did with it, what the next steps were.
Yeah.
So I think I did really quick want to wrap up because I think it's relevant to this conversation before we end it is. For those that are scared to be in a relationship with a home, as a home buyer, maybe talk about what protections are there now versus the lack thereof during the housing market crash of 2008 and why that is highly unlikely to happen again.
Yeah, that's a good talk. Yeah. So I get that question a lot.
First of all, there's a good movie on it if you want to watch it. Called
The Big Short.
The Big Short.
Love that movie.
Okay.
But I would say in general, I would say it's just so I think it's better to talk about why the housing market crashed.
Sure, yeah.
So it crashed because the bulk of the buyers that were borrowing money were not vetted correctly, and a lot of them started missing payments when their payments went up because they were on a variable mortgage or an adjustable rate mortgage that changed, right? So that was like the foundation piece that started crumbling. Was you have home buyers that couldn't make payments, and so now that forced them to sell, which drove prices down. Like there was some other stuff too, but that was the main thing.
And mostly people now do get fixed rate mortgages, but what is an adjustable rate mortgage?
So an adjustable rate mortgage is say, hey, in a nutshell, you're paying $2,000 a month for the first year or for 2 years, but then later on your payments spike up, and the next thing you know, you're paying $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month on the same amount of money you owe. And as you can see, you don't have to be a genius to figure out, like, oh shit, a lot of people cannot handle that. And on top of that too, a lot of people were relying on their mortgage applications because the mortgage lenders were pushing it through. Nowadays, and this is what I talked about, nowadays mortgage lending is very frustrating, or getting a loan is very frustrating because they do such an intense deep dive on your finances to make sure that the money you make is real, your job is secure.
They call your employer to verify.
Yeah, they verify anything. It's if you have insured money moved in your accounts, they ask what that is. It is an intense. It's more intense than like an IRS audit.
Yeah, for us at the time it might be more, but any purchase we made over $500 within the last 6 months of us applying for a loan, they asked us for a written explanation of what that was.
It's intense, and so now it's different. Is you have people's lending is a bit more vetted. Majority of people are on fixed 30-year loans, so their payments will change. So even if your payment is high, it's not going to spike up from 3 to 5.
Yeah.
Right? And so because of that, home prices go up and down. It's cyclical. They do that.
But it doesn't matter. Bryce and I always get frustrated. Yeah. People freak out when the house they're in, the price drops. But it's like, you're not selling. So that would matter if you were selling. But if you plan to be in this house for a while, why does it matter what the prices are doing in that moment?
Yeah.
It only matters if you're selling.
Exactly. And if your payments are staying the same, it's a bit more stagnant. Yeah. And if you want to move, you can just put a renter in there.
Yeah, sure.
The point being is, what happened then was very specific. And I'm sure we're going to go through a cycle again. Like, that's just bound to happen. But that was so severe. And really what it comes down to is knowing your payment. If your payment's locked in and you can just kind of handle that, like, that's the battle. But it'd be like saying this. It'd be like if your car payment all of a sudden tripled. You'd probably have to fucking sell your car. And then at that time, everyone else is selling their car, which makes the value of your car go down. Yeah. So it's just this whole shit show.
Yeah. And for me, I didn't really understand that concept when I wasn't very familiar with real estate. And just to reiterate again, that movie, The Big Short, with is Christian Bale in that? No, that's
it's Christian Bale and then Michael Scott.
Oh, okay.
Who plays Michael Scott?
Steve Carell.
Steve Carell.
Yeah. That movie breaks it down in a simple way with real characters, and it's cool. Movie, it really explains, why it crashed so bad in that year. But anyways,
I'll leave it with that. Just renting and buying, it's specific to you
for sure.
And if you don't know where you're going to live, renting makes sense. But I would say if you know you're going to be here for the next 3 or 4 years and you have the ability and you're trying to find a way to build. So if you think about your life, it's like a business, right? You have your income statement, which is the income you make, the debt you make. You also have your balance sheet.
Right.
The money, what you own and what you owe. And so the only way you're able to build up that balance sheet is by owning assets or owning cash or stocks, whatever the hell it is. But getting the home ownership is just such a pivotal piece of that, because not buying a home doesn't save you payments. You still have to fucking make rent payments.
No, you're right.
When people compare, like, if I'm buying, I gotta spend $3,000 a month. Well, you gotta spend that anyways if you're renting. Yeah. Obviously, if you're living at home, like we did for parents for like a couple months, you have that benefit. But in the long term, when you kind of we were gonna be there forever.
No. Yeah.
You're not saving rent payments. It's just the alternative is like, hey, if your rent is $2,000 a month, but then your mortgage is $2,500. Yeah, it's a bit higher. But guess what? In 20, 30 years, you now own this home that's worth $400,000-$500,000 that you own, and all of a sudden your payments fall off. Like, the benefits are in the future.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah.
That's a good spiel.
Yeah, I agree. So that's home buying in a nutshell, which lots more to talk about in the future, because that's where Bryce and I's life leads, is really real estate. So we'll be talking about this often.
Yeah, we drive really hard. We got hooked.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. A little bit overconfident. It was me. But.
Is there a term for
the
lending process beat our asses, but we loved it, so we wanted to do it more.
I think it's like the kinky term.
Yeah. Our fetish became pain in the ass lending.
I don't know what the hell that is.
Lending process.
Yeah.
So anyways, we'll talk about that more to come. But for now, next time we'll get more into just making money.
Yeah.
Really, this is where we really started to move and shake and make as much money as we could, just because we wanted to.
Yeah, and I'm excited to finally get here now, because I feel like before we were just in college, and I was like dealing with the military shit.
Stuck.
Like, money wasn't really priority. It was just like trying to make it to the next year.
Yeah.
Whereas like now, like, we see the highway. We know the direction. The money starts coming in, and we're able to start really thinking about, like, okay, our monthly expenses are taken care of. Let's start thinking about what do we do with this money. Where does it go? Right. And so I'm excited to kind of get into the finances of our life a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Then now we can actually talk specific numbers. The military kind of kept us from doing that because it's a little bit smoke and mirrors.
Yeah,
we can talk exactly what our salaries were, what we were paying monthly, what our mortgage was.
Yeah. Because it's a bit more fresh in our mind too.
Yeah.
Well, plus too, when you do the loans, you have to like write all it down.
Yeah.
And so you're like, oh yeah. Whereas like the military, I can't really remember what it was.
Yeah, to be honest.
And you're not paying shit anyways. So
no.
It's kind of weird. So, anyways,
we'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. We will see you guys next time.
Thank you guys for watching. If you liked this and want more, subscribe or comment below. We'll see you here next time on Iron Bay Research. Bryce and Kara signing out.